will be solving systems of equations using substitution. Now for substitution, it's going to look different than elimination because in elimination, both variables had to be on the left side. But today for substitution, you have to have one variable by itself. So for substitution, you have to have one variable by itself. Now it doesn't matter which variable is by itself. It can be x by itself or it can be y by itself. So either variable could be by itself. So looking at problem number 1, do you see a variable by itself? Yeah, which variable is by itself? The x. So notice the x is by itself. So what I want you to do is I want you to circle what x equals. So circle what x equals. Now, what you circled, you need to substitute it into the other equation for x. So notice what I circled is equal to x. So I'm going to draw an arrow, and I'm going to substitute it into the other equation. So instead of x, I'm going to replace it with a 3. So for this equation, if there's already a number in front, that means multiply. So we need to multiply 4 times 3 minus 3y equals 9. So instead of the x, I'm replacing it with a 3. Now solve for y. So what's 4 times 3? So this would be 12 minus 3y equals 9. What's next? Subtract 12 to both sides. So positive 12, negative 12 is my 0 pair. Bring down the negative 3y. Yeah, 9 minus 12 is negative 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. And what does y equal? 1. Now, we have to write our solution as an ordered pair. Now, this type of problem really gives people trouble for some reason because they think after they get the first answer, they need to find the second answer. But if I already have y, what do I need to find? X. But what do you notice right here? They already gave it to us. So they already gave us half the answer. So when you write your answer, it still needs to be written as an ordered pair. So it's going to be 3, 1. So I like this kind because they already gave me one answer. Now, we're not going to do all of these problems. We'll just do the first 8. So moving on to problem number 2. Now, in order to use substitution, you have to have a variable by itself. Do we have a variable by itself? Yes. Which variable is by itself? The x. So I want you to circle what x equals. So circle what x equals. Now, that's in the top equation. We need to substitute it into the bottom equation. So since this is what x equals, draw an arrow to the x. So instead of that x in the bottom, we are substituting in a 3y. Now, if you already have a number in front, you'll have to use parentheses. So the 2 is out front, so use parentheses. And instead of x, what are we replacing the x with? 3y. Then write the rest of the equation. Minus 4y equals 6. Multiply with 2 times 3y. So 6y minus 4y equals 6. Combine your like terms. What is 6y minus 4y? 2y equals 6. Divide both sides by 2. Y is equal to 3. Now that's half of our answer. Once you have y, what do you have to find next? X. So you get to pick. Do you want to use the top or bottom? Top. So if we use the top equation, it's x equals 3y. And instead of y, what do I put for the y? If there's already a number in front, use parentheses so that you multiply. And 3 times 3 is 9. How do I write my solution? 9, 3. So x, y. Okay, again, I just said we're doing the first 8, so we've done 2 out of 8, so we're a fourth of the way through the notes. Okay, next one, number 3. Now, again, for substitution, we have to have a variable by itself. Do you see a variable by itself? Y. So I want you to circle what y equals. So circle what y equals. Now that's going to go into the bottom equation. Do I draw my arrow to the x or to the y? To the y. Now here I'll have to be careful because there's actually a number in front of this y. What number's in front of it? -1. So I said earlier, if there's already a number in front of the variable you're substituting in for, you'll have to put it in parentheses. So what we need to do is bring down the 2x, bring down your -1, and in the parentheses put what y is equal to. So everything in the circle is -x plus 4. And that equals 5. Now for this one, we have more than one term inside the parentheses. So what we'll have to do with this -1 is we'll have to multiply it twice or distribute, whatever you want to say. Distributing is just multiplying. So drop down the 2x. A -1 times -x becomes +x. What is -1 times 4? -4 equals 5. Combine your like terms. So with substitution, you'll probably have like terms to combine. That's right, 3x minus 4 equals 5. Add 4 to both sides. 3x equals 9. Divide both sides by 3. That is correct. We get x equals 3. Now, just like with elimination, once you have the first answer, you'll have to find the second answer. So do we want to use the top or bottom? Top. So we have y equals -x plus 4. And what number do I replace the x with? A 3. So what happens when I put a 3 right here? It's -3 plus 4. And what's -3 plus 4? +1. So what's my solution? 3, 1. So again, with substitution, when you're substituting in for the variable, if there's already a number out front, what do you have to remember to do? Put it in parentheses. You'll have to distribute. Now for number 4, for substitution, you have to have a variable by itself. Do we have a variable by itself? No. So if there's not a variable by itself, you'll have to solve for a variable. So which variable is close to being by itself? Yeah, this 2y right here. How would I get rid of the 2? Yeah, so all 3 of these need to be divided by 2. So 2y needs to be divided by 2, 8x needs to be divided by 2, and the -24 needs to be divided by 2. And I'll rewrite the equations out to the side. So what's 2y divided by 2? Y. What is 8x divided by 2? 4x. Yeah, -24 divided by 2 is going to be -12. Bottom equation did not change, so I'm rewriting it as it's written on the page. Now it's in substitution form because now I have a variable by itself. So circle what y is equal to. And when I draw my arrow to the bottom equation, do I draw my arrow to the x or to the y? To the y. Now notice there's already a number out in front of the y. So what do you have to use there? Parentheses. So bring down the 4x and the +2. Then in the parentheses, put what y is equal to. So what's in the circle is 4x minus 12. Now we'll have to make sure we distribute this 2. So bring down the 4x. What is 2 times 4x? 8x. And what's 2 times -12? -24. And that equals 6. What's next? Combine our like terms. So what's 4x plus 8x? So 12x minus 24 equals 6. Add 24 to both sides. 12x equals 30. Divide both sides by 12. 2.5. Now, if you leave it as an improper fraction, that's fine. So if you left it as an improper fraction, that would be 5/2. So either one is a correct answer. So either one, 2.5 or 5/2. Now, that's half of the answer. So to get the other half of the answer, make sure you're using an original equation. So do we want to use the top original or the bottom original? So 4x plus 2y equals 6. And for x, what did we get for x? 2.5. So here's where you might prefer the decimal over the improper fraction. So what's 2.5 times 4? 10. So 10 plus 2y equals 6. Subtract 10 to both sides. 2y equals -4. Divide both sides by 2, and what does y equal? -2. Now for the solution. What's our solution? 5/2, comma -2. Now that's a perfectly good answer. Now if you use the decimal, that's fine too. So as a decimal, it would be 2.5, -2. So both of those answers are good answers. So either one would be fine. Okay, now we're halfway through the notes. Okay, next one, number 5. Now, number 5, in order to use substitution, you have to have a variable by itself. Do we have a variable by itself here? No. So you have to get a variable by itself. So which one would be easy to get by itself? Yeah, this top y. So to get the top y by itself, yeah, I'll have to move this 2x to the other side. So what happens to the 2x when I move it to the other side? Becomes -2x. And I'm not changing the bottom equation. It's going to stay 6x plus 3y equals 15. Now, circle what y equals. And when I draw my arrow, do I draw my arrow to the x or to the y? To the y. If there's already a number in front, you have to group it in parentheses. So instead of y, what do I replace the y with? -2x plus 5. And this equals 15. Distribute our 3. What's 3 times -2x? -6x. What's 3 times 5? 15. Yeah, what happens with these x's? Yeah, positive 6x, -6x, that's a zero pair. So we get 15 equals 15. So when your variables disappear, you have to ask yourself, is this true or false? So does 15 equal 15? Yes, our answer is going to be all real numbers. Now that actually saved us some work because we didn't have to solve for the other variable. Okay, number 6, and then 2 word problems. Number 6, do we have a variable by itself? Yes, I want you to circle what it equals. And when we draw our arrow, do I draw my arrow to the x or to the y? To the x. If there's a number in front of it, what do you have to remember to use? Parentheses. I want you to finish number 6, and we'll talk about your answer in just a moment. Who got 2, 5 as their answer? Who got 0, 1 for their answer? Who didn't get an answer? Yeah, this one actually doesn't have an answer because put my -2 and then in parentheses put what x equals, which is -2 minus 3y. We have minus 6y equals -10. Make sure you distribute the number out front. So -2 times -2 is positive 4. -2 times -3y is positive 6y. Bring down the rest of the equation. And what happens with these y's? Yeah, positive 6y, negative 6y, they make a 0 pair and they go away. So what's left on my left side? 4. What's left on the right side? Does 4 equal -10? No, it doesn't. So the answer is no solution. And most of you pretty much guessed that because after all real numbers, what's next? Usually it's no solution for math teachers. We try to keep it on the same path. Okay, 2 more. So let's look at number 7. Okay, so it says to define the variables, write a system, and solve it. So for number 7, it says there are 27 students in class. There are 3 more girls than boys. How many of each are there? So when we define the variables, what 2 things are they talking about in the problem? Boys and girls. So I'm going to use B for boys. So B is going to be the number of boys. And G is going to be the number of girls. So B for boys, G for girls. So keep it simple. Now from the word problem, we'll have to come up with 2 separate equations. So the first sentence says there are 27 students in class. So 27 is my total. And 27 represents the students. Well, what kind of students do I have in my class? Boys and girls. Do I want to do B plus G or G plus B? Okay, B plus G. Boys and girls. Now, does it matter with addition which one comes first? No, if you put the girls first, that's perfectly fine. So B plus G equals 27. Now, next sentence says there are 3 more girls than boys. Now, if you have a problem where you're talking about more or less, well, think about this. Let me read it again. There are 3 more girls than boys. What do I have the most of? So girls are going to be by themselves. Whatever you have the most of is going to be by themselves. And how would I write there's 3 more girls than boys? Yeah, more than means what? Add. So if I take what I have the least of, which is the boys, and add 3 more to that, that will tell me how many girls I have. So whatever you have the most of will go by itself. So girls are the most, it's going to be by themselves. I want you to solve that one. How do I know this one's ready for substitution? Yeah, the variable G is by itself. So go ahead and solve number 7. Now, for word problems, don't put them as an ordered pair. Just leave it as G equals and B equals. That's fine for word problems. Now, when you were working this, you could have flipped that other notes page over on the back, and you'd have more room. Okay, what should I circle? The B plus 3. When I draw my arrow to the other equation, do I draw the arrow to the B or to the G? To the G. So this gives me B plus, instead of G, what do I replace it with? b plus 3 equals 27. B plus b, 2b. Subtract 3 to both sides. What's 27 minus 3? So 2b equals 24. Divide both sides by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So there are 12 boys. Now for the girls, do I want to use the top or bottom equation? Bottom. So G equals B plus 3. Instead of B, what do I replace it with? And what's 12 plus 3? 15. So there are 15 girls and 12 boys. If you add these numbers together, do they add to 27? Yes, so there's 27 students in the class. And do I have it to where there's 3 more girls than there are boys? Yeah, 15 is 3 more than 12. Okay, the last one that we'll do is number 8. Number 8, it says the perimeter of a rectangular paper is 60 centimeters. The length is 12 centimeters less than twice the width. Find the dimensions. So the first thing we have to do is define the variables. So when they're asking us for the dimensions of the rectangle, what are they actually asking us for? Length and width. So I'm going to use L for the length and W for the width. Why am I using a capital L? Yeah, if I do a lowercase l, what does that look like? A 1, so that's why I'm using a capital L. Okay, that first sentence talks about the perimeter of a rectangle. So let me draw you a picture. What do we call the long side? The length. What do we call the short side? The width. And what does perimeter mean? Yeah, perimeter means the distance around the rectangle. So if I go all the way around all 4 sides of the rectangle, if I add all 4 of these together, I'm going to have 2 lengths and 2 widths. So that's a perimeter formula for a rectangle. And what did they say the perimeter equals? 60. So 2 lengths plus 2 widths, the total perimeter is 60. Next sentence, it says the length. What variable are we using for length? L. What does the word is mean? Equals. And it needs to be 12 less than twice the width. Now, when we're writing this, I have a 12. Less than is what operation? Subtract. How would I write twice the width? 2W. Now, when I write this, what should go first? 2W. This needs to be 2W. Oh. Yeah, it needs to be 2W minus 12. Anytime you have the less than, you have to switch the order because we want 12 less than twice the width. So they're actually telling it to you backwards. So we want 12 less than twice the width. So the first thing you have to do is find twice the width, subtract 12, and that will give you 12 less than the length. Well, 12 less than twice the width. So if you see less than, you'll have to switch it. Put the variable first. So 2W goes first, 12 goes in the back. Now, is this one ready for substitution? How do I know this is ready for substitution? L is by itself, so circle what L equals. And when I draw my arrow, do I draw it to the L or to the W? To the L. Now, if there's already a number in front, what do you have to remember? Parentheses. So I want you to finish problem 8. Find the length and find the width. Okay, if there's already a number in front of what you're substituting for, make sure you use parentheses. So what needs to be inside the parentheses? 2w minus 12. Then bring down the plus 2w equals 60. Distribute that 2. What's 2 times 2w? 4w. What's 2 times negative 12? Negative 24 plus 2w equals 60. Combine your like terms with 4w plus 2w. 6w minus 24 equals 60. Add 24 to both sides. 6w equals 84. Divide by 6. 14. Make sure you use units. This is 14 centimeters. So make sure you have your units with it. Now for the length, do we want to use the top or bottom? You can use either one. 2L plus 2W equals 60. And here the width is 14. So what's 2 times 14? 28. So this would be 2L plus 28 equals 60. Subtract 28 to both sides. And what's 60 minus 28? 32. Divide both sides by 2. The length is 16 centimeters. So if you use the bottom equation, probably most of you probably use this one. So you would have 2 times 14 would be 28, and 28 minus 12 still gives you 16. So it doesn't matter if you use the top equation or the bottom equation to get your second answer. As long as you work it correctly, your answer will be the same.